Let's look at some techniques you can use with V-Ray Sun and Sky, but instead of the boring blue sky, how to get some more colors in there. So let's start in an empty scene. I'm just gonna make a V-Ray physical camera and a V-Ray sunlight. Basically, we want sun to be pointing straight down, and maybe let's position it at the 0 on the x-axis, just so we can align everything better. Okay, and let's take the camera, move that to 0 as well, and I'm gonna move the target up so the camera is looking directly upwards, and I'm gonna override my camera to use spherical mapping with 360-degree field of view. Okay, so we have our sky in the environment slot, and we have our sun pointing down. So let's render and see how it looks. Okay, so basically we have a visual representation of the whole sky here. You can just ignore these left and right parts and just look at those. Look at this little rectangle here. So this is the top and this is the horizon. So let's see how we can modify the look of our sky. Okay, I'm just gonna slightly raise the sun so it's not below the horizon, so you can see the spot right here. Right. So first of all, I want to bring down the exposure a little bit. So I'm going to take my sun and I'm going to reduce the intensity a little bit, since in the evening the sun is a bit weaker. So let's try 0.5. Okay, so that's already darker. It's good. Maybe 0.3. Alright. And I want to bump up the turbidity a bit. Let's try 5 and increase the ozone to 1. Okay. So this could be as good a starting point as any. I just also want to increase the size of the sun, since if the sun is closer to the horizon, it usually appears a little bit larger and the shadows can be a bit softer. So let's set it to 3. Alright. And let's say we want to add some pink colors to the sky. And what you can do is you can instance the sky map in some slot in the material editor, and you can change that sky to a V-Ray comp text. Okay, give it as a submap, and now you can take that sky and either add, subtract, difference, multiply, divide, minimum, maximum, any of these blending modes with another map. So let's try multiplying it with a simple color. So let's say we want something more pink, something like this. And you can see that there's some sort of a purple tint going on. Maybe make the intensity a bit stronger for this color, and maybe make it a little bit brighter. Okay, and you get this interesting purple sky as well. Now let's say I'm happy with the base color, and I want to boost the area around the sun, and maybe make some sort of a color change as it goes towards the back of the sky. And you can also do that by adding some more maps to this composition. So let's say I want to add a gradient ramp to create that effect. So change that texture type, the map type, to V-Ray composite texture again. Keep the old map as a submap, and we're just gonna add another layer. Okay, change that to multiply and set up a gradient ramp. Okay, and for the gradient ramp you must set the mapping type to environment and spherical for it to work correctly. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong. So let's render and see how it looks. And you can see how the gradient goes from black to white. Perhaps let's offset it. Okay, like that. So you can see how you can move it around. Okay, so we want the black areas to be, maybe let's leave them at white. And this black area, maybe some darkish blue tint like that. Okay, so this side of the sky becomes darker. And maybe let's add some yellows to the sun, maybe make them slightly orangey. Okay. Make that a bit less intense. All right, and maybe let's transition to some pinks, purples. So to make a nice sunset gradient. Like that. And just duplicate it to the other side. You can copy and paste the colors so the process goes a bit more quickly. Okay. And you get these very intense colors. Let's try to add mode. It's going to be a bit too bright, I think. Okay. Let's leave it at multiply. And let's adjust our camera for the evening exposure. So right now it's kind of dark. So let's reduce the shutter speed, increase the film speed, and render again. Okay, so something like this. Now let's say I want to make this bottom area a bit more bland, a bit less colored. So let's add another gradient ramp. So change the map type to V-Ray comp text again. Keep a submap, and this time I'm going to use a gradient ramp. Okay, set it to spherical. See how it works. Okay. And maybe let's rotate 90 degrees and see what happens. Okay, so now the white part is on the top. And this area is the horizon. And this bottom part is everything that's below the horizon. We really don't need that, so we can get rid of that. Okay. So we had pink color added to the horizon. Just gonna make it slightly more yellow. And add pink on top. Okay. Basically, you can layer these gradients in whichever way you want and create very interesting effects in the sky. And we're not really worried about getting very accurate colors, since this map will probably not be used as a background. It's just going to be used for lighting. Okay, so that's nice, and let's add that blend color I was talking about earlier right here. Actually, maybe first let's change this to something a bit more blue. I think it's too purple. Okay, and go on and create another layer. You can go nuts here, you can just add as many layers as you want for as many different effects as you want. So let's add another gradient. Okay, set it to spherical. This time I'm going to use the add mode. And I want to add some bland bluish color right here in the middle. Keep the rest black. Okay, to slightly brighten this area and maybe make it a bit less saturated. Right. And you can see this weird stripe extending here, since we have spherical mapping set up. And we can try to mask it. And there's actually the same problem on top where we have this yellow stripe going on. And we can fix that by masking our gradient ramp with a mix map. Okay, set it with a black color. Use the gradient ramp as the mix mount. Okay, and we want this this gradient ramp to look like the top is black and it becomes white as it goes down. So let's set the top to black and set the middle to white. And that sort of masks that thing out. Okay. We had some other similar problems somewhere, I think, with this map. So let's mix it with black as well. Okay. Wrong way around, I think. Okay, alright. That's fine. Okay, that's better. It can be a bit confusing to understand exactly what's going on. But you can just experiment and try some different setups. And let's say I'm pretty happy with the result. And we want to test it out in a regular scene. So first of all, I'm going to reset my camera to regular. Let's create some sort of geometry here. So V-Ray plane. And maybe some standard teapot. Okay. And let's see how it looks. Right, and I think the exposure is a bit low. And we can run the whole thing and run output map. Control exactly the amount of brightness we're gonna get from this map. Set it to 1.5. That should brighten it up. Okay. And if it's too bright, you can bring it down to match the sun better. So I'm guessing something like this. I think this area on the back is a bit too pink. So we want to change that back out to something a bit more blue. Okay, like that. I think that's all right. And if you look at the sun, you can see this these sunset colors, the pinks, reds, and yellows going on. And if you raise the sun, the whole thing becomes brighter, the colors become brighter, and it basically works the same way as a regular V-Ray sky would. And since this is pretty much for sunset only, we can bring this down. Okay, so like that, and I think the result is pretty decent. Now the problem with the setup is you have so many maps that rotating the sun is going to create a mismatch between your gradient. You can see the pinks here, even though the sun itself is right here where the cool colors are. And you can actually wire some parameters together to fix that. So now we want to connect the rotation of the sun with the rotation of the gradient maps. And to do that we need a helper object. It doesn't matter what you use, I'm just going to use a simple box here. And Let's increase the segments so we can see better. And next, take the sun and its target and align it with the center of the box. Right? And using the select and link tool, just link them together like this. And now when you rotate the box, the sunlight gets rotated along with it. So that's all fine. But how do we connect the gradient map offset with the rotation of this helper object? So first of all, let's open the Slate Material Editor. You can switch between them here, Compact or Slate. And I'm going to bring in my map. And the maps we actually need to offset are this gradient map and this one. And I can see that by the look of the map, since it goes from left to right, it needs to be offset. If the map goes from top down, it doesn't need to be touched at all. So it's this map and this map. And we want to create a new dummy material. It's not going to be used for rendering, it's just going to be used for controlling these maps. So instance the map here, and instance the second map in the next slot. It doesn't matter how the material looks. Okay. Now we want to take this material and assign it to our helper box. So now we can wire together some parameters. And what I want to do is I'm going to right click and choose wire parameters. And I'm going to take that diffuse map, coordinate offset, and wire it together with the Z rotation of this box. Okay. So basically I've calculated a simple ratio that can be used here, since the rotation is in degrees and the offset is in scale from 0 to 1. And there's some weird math going on, but I've calculated that I can divide it by 6.2357 or something like this. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. And connect these two ways. Press the connect button. Right? And let's see if that actually worked. So let's take that box and let's rotate it 90 degrees. Looks like it didn't work. Let's try again. So disconnect and Z divided by 6.236. Two-way connection. Z rotation is the master, and connect. Okay, so let's rotate. Let's rotate 90 degrees, and that should give us 25% offset on the map. And if you look at that map right here, you can see that it's offset 25.2%. And that's because my ratio is not exact, but it's close enough. Now we just need to connect the other map as well. So go to your U offset and find the next map. That's the reflect map, coordinates, U offset. And set up the same formula here. 6.2357, two-way connection, and connect. And now both of these gradients should have the correct offset value. If I rotate 90 degrees more, the offset should be about 50%, and it's actually 50.4, but that's because my ratio is not correct. But it's close enough for our purposes. And if I rotate it back to the original position, the offset is 0. And the incorrect ratio can be some trouble if you rotate, for example, some crazy amount like thousands of degrees. The offset is not going to be correct, it's going to be off by some degrees, but just stick to the 0 to 360 degree range and you should be fine. So now let's actually test it out. Let's close the editor and go to our camera. Okay, I'm just going to save the scene and let's test it out. So the bright spot is here. Okay, check our box, make sure it's not renderable. since I can't see what I'm clicking, I'm just pressing enter and hoping for the best. Okay, that's cool. And now rotate the box to a different position, and the bright spot is gone, and we have this cool color coming from this side. And you can see if we move our camera and look at the sun again, the bright spot follows the sun perfectly. So you can merge these objects into your scene and use the map as your lighting source, and just rotate the sun as you wish. And for example, if you want, you can lift the sun up, and it still works the same way, but the sky changes appropriately. So you can see it's much brighter, the colors are slightly different. It sort of works like regular VRay sky, but with some weird colors, sunset colors. So I would usually keep the sun pretty low. Right, so let's save the scene, and I'm gonna try and use it on our example scene with the interiors. One more thing before we bring it in, I forgot to mention, is that you need to use that map on this helper object as well, this final output map, so you can easily access it from the new scene you're going to use this lighting in. So just, I don't know, just use it as a bump map or something, and that's fine. Okay. File, save, selected, sunset, sun. Okay. And let's open the scene with the interiors and merge in our sunset sun. Okay, and choose these two objects. And let's move them somewhere where we can see them. It's a bit smallish, but it's good enough for the general direction of the sun. Okay, so we want to open the material editor. I want to switch to compact editor and pick the material from this box. And since I use that sky in my bump slot, I'm just gonna go to rendering, environment, and set it up right here. Okay, that's good for now. And let's rotate it so the sun points towards the windows, or something like that, and see how it looks. Okay, just gonna pause the recording now. Okay, and here's our render. Nice, very pink sunset sky with some beautiful warm sunlight coming in. And the great thing about this method is that it's very, very flexible. So for example, if you do not like the colors, you just go in, change the gradients, and that's that. Or you can just go one level in, and let's say you want to reduce the saturation of the sky, you think it's too pink and too saturated. You just create a color correct map. Okay, color correction, keep the old map as submap, and let's say you want to bring down the saturation by 20 points, and you have a whole different render already. Okay, maybe 20 is a bit too... Okay, so maybe not 20, maybe 30, and try again. and for some reason it has become a lot brighter. Well, let's see if we can fix that. I'm just gonna go back and instead create a color correction map on my output. Okay, that's better. And you can see the colors are less saturated and maybe a bit more natural now. Okay, you still have those beautiful pinks, but they are not so intense. And the sky in the window is less saturated as well. Okay, and let's try and rotate it in the opposite direction to get some more purplish light coming in. Alright, so as you can see, there's quite a lot of flexibility here for this setup. And if you want, you do not need to create it from scratch. You can just adjust this setup I've created. You can mess with the gradients, add maybe some more, change the colors, and it's gonna work just fine. Just merge it into your scene and use in the environment slot.